The day I became the most hated man in Lakeside Estates was the same day I became its most powerful. The HOA fined me $500 for fishing with my grieving daughter. What they didn't know was that I had 4 million reasons and enough spite to fight back. Would you like me to continue with Section 2? Setup, new start, new rules, 200 words, next? You said. Write all script at once. ChatGPT said. Perfect. Below is the full 1,500-word storytelling script for your YouTube video titled Fishing Pole. HOA fined me for fishing, so I bought the lake and banned the entire neighborhood. It's structured for maximum retention, emotion, and engagement, following the pacing we discussed. Clear scene breaks, curiosity hooks, and a strong emotional through line. The day I became the most hated man in Lakeside Estates was the same day I became its most powerful. The HOA fined me $500 for fishing with my grieving daughter. What they didn't know was that I had 4 million reasons and enough spite to fight back. 2 months earlier, I thought I'd found the perfect place to start over. After my wife Rachel passed away, my 14-year-old daughter, Soren, and I needed peace. Something quiet. Something healing. Fishing had been our family ritual, the one thing that made her smile again. So when we found a beautiful house beside a sparkling 6-acre lake, I knew it was the one. Lakeside Estates looked like something out of a postcard. Fresh lawns, pastel houses, and calm water that mirrored the sky. The realtor bragged about its tight-knit community and top-notch HOA standards. I thought she meant clean sidewalks and painted fences. What she really meant was a tiny government ruled by a woman named Karen Wellington. The HOA rules were everywhere, font sizes, mailbox colors, even which flowers you could plant, but I shrugged it off. After all, I'd spent 15 years surviving venture capital meetings. How bad could one neighborhood committee be? I soon found out. It was a quiet Saturday morning when Soren and I went to the dock with our fishing rods. The air smelled like pine and summer, and for the first time in months, she laughed, really laughed, as she reeled in a tiny bluegill. Then came the voice. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing?" She stood there, Karen Wellington, late 50s, expensive tracksuit, tablet in hand, and that haircut you only see when someone's about to demand a manager. I smiled politely. "Just fishing with my daughter. We moved in a couple of months ago." Karen ignored my hand and started tapping her screen. "Fishing is strictly prohibited in this lake. HZA regulation number 417B. That's a $500 fine." Soren froze, the joy draining from her face. "But we're not hurting anything," she whispered. Karen's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Rules are rules. Ignorance doesn't excuse violations." She turned her tablet toward me, showing an amended regulation dated only weeks ago. I wanted to argue, but my daughter's tears stopped me. We packed up in silence while Karen strutted off like she'd saved the world. As we walked home, Soren finally asked, "Dad, why was that lady so mean?" I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But I promised myself I'd find one. That night I checked my email, every folder, even spam. No notice. Nothing about any fishing ban. Curious, I looked up the HOA president's name. Within minutes, I found photos of Karen hosting champagne-fueled lake parties on social media. The same lake she'd fined me for touching. The hypocrisy burned. The next morning, while walking the dog, I met Merrick, an older neighbor who introduced himself as a retired attorney. When I mentioned my run-in with Karen, he sighed. You've met our self-appointed queen. Been running this place like her private fiefdom for years." He invited me for coffee and pulled out dusty folders from his study. "Here's something most residents don't know," he said, pointing at a document. "The HOA doesn't own the lake. The developer, Meridian Corporation, does. The HOA only leases it." I scanned the lease. 2 months from expiring. And right there, an idea started forming. A dangerous, delicious idea. I dug deeper. Karen wasn't trying to protect the lake. She was trying to buy it. Through her real estate company, Wellington Properties, she'd been negotiating to purchase the land once the lease expired. She wanted to develop luxury homes along the waterline and make millions. But Meridian Corporation, the developer, was in financial trouble. They needed cash fast. That was my opening. I created a new LLC, Thornycrest Holdings, and started gathering paperwork for a full cash offer. My plan was simple: buy the lake right under her nose. Every night after Soren went to bed, I researched property law, lease clauses, and land titles. It felt like building a startup again. Only this time, the product was revenge. Karen wanted to own the lake to control the neighborhood. I wanted to own it to free it. She'd made the rules for everyone else. Now I was going to write my own. Karen must have sensed something. Within days, the violation letters started pouring in. Improper mailbox height. Grass exceeding community standards. Unapproved garden decor. Even Soren's bike left on the driveway for 10 minutes earned a warning with time-stamped photos. Then it wasn't just us. Other neighbors started whispering about new fines, nitpicky inspections, and HOA board visits that felt more like raids. Karen was tightening her grip, and my quiet rebellion was turning into a movement. Merrick connected me with Samuel, a retired banker who'd been documenting HOA abuses for years. Together, we built a small, secret group chat, our underground, of fed-up residents. When Soren came home crying because classmates said her dad was ruining the neighborhood, I almost gave up. But Merrick's words echoed. That's what she wants. She pushes until you break. Don't give her the satisfaction. So I didn't. 2 weeks later, I sat in a downtown law office, signing the papers. $350,000 cash. The 6-acre lake, the dock, and a 10-foot shoreline buffer now belonged to me. The timing couldn't have been more poetic. The very next day, Karen called a special community meeting to unveil her lakeside beautification project. She had renderings, charts, and a smug smile, talking about how the HOA would soon own the lake. I sat in the back row, sipping coffee, saying nothing. Every word she spoke was about my property. When she finished, people clapped politely. I just smiled. She had no idea that her empire had already slipped away. A week later, Karen threw a massive lakeside event, music, food, and wine, to celebrate her upcoming purchase. That was my moment. I arrived with Merrick, Samuel, my lawyer, and a local officer I'd briefed beforehand. Karen was mid-speech when I took the microphone. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful day on my lake. The crowd went silent. Karen laughed nervously. Excuse me? This is HOA property. Not anymore, I said, holding up the deed. I bought it last week. And as of this moment, you're all trespassing. Gasps. Murmurs. Karen's face drained of color. You can't do this, she screamed. Actually, I can, I said calmly. The recreational lease expired yesterday. You're welcome to leave peacefully. Officer Reynolds will ensure it stays that way. The officer stepped forward. The crowd scattered. Karen stood frozen, trembling with rage. For years, you made everyone follow your rules, Karen, I said softly. Today, you finally have to follow mine. Within a week, I installed private property signs and partnered with a conservation group to restore the lake's water quality. Then, I launched something new, a free kids fishing program, open to all families except current HOA board members. Word spread fast. Parents cheered, kids learned to fish again, and for the first time, Lakeside Estates felt like a community. Karen tried to sue. She lost. Then she tried to smear me. It backfired. When residents learned she'd been secretly profiting from fines, they voted her out. Now, every morning, I sit on the dock with Soren as the sun hits the water. She smiles again. And every time I see Karen drive by, glaring from her car window, I can't help but think, she fined me for fishing. So I bought the lake and banned her from even looking at it.